Hello, welcome to Granada Reports. We're live with the latest across the northwest.
Hello, thanks for joining us. Here's what's on the programme this evening.
Searching food banks for second-hand school uniforms. Despite reforms to bring costs down, why thousands of parents can't afford to buy their children new ones.
Yesterday, for example, we gave out nearly 200 items of used school uniform in a 4-hour period.
A health warning to men. Why is the Northwest a hotspot for head and neck cancer? Broadcaster Mark Radcliffe on his scary brush with the illness.
If I hadn't found it, they said it would, if it had been left unchecked, they said I would have had 6 to 8 months to live.
I'm through the door and I'm not even sure where to look. Bunch of people round a table, laminated book, Elvis on the hook.
Putting his poetry to music. Meet Anthony, the English teacher who has a way with words, the latest rising star of Granada introducing.
And it was big, it was bright, and the weather was just about right. I'll have more of your full moon photos from last night and, of course, the outlook as we head into the meteorological autumn a little later on.
First, schools are just days away from the autumn term, but tonight there are new warnings about the alarming cost of school uniforms.
That's despite a campaign by the Cheshire MP Mike Amesbury to get the law changed to reduce the cost for parents who can least afford it.
The Weaver Vale MP persuaded the government to tell schools to keep branding on uniforms to a minimum. That should mean parents can buy items like jumpers, dresses and sports gear from supermarkets. Schools were told to comply by the start of this school year, but many, it seems, haven't.
Children's Society polled 2,000 parents and carers. They found the average cost of a secondary school uniform was £422 per year and more than £280 per year for a primary school uniform.
As an example, a charity based in Wirral found only 3 of the borough's 127 schools had reduced the number of branded items.
Our correspondent Anne O'Connor reports from a food bank in Cheshire giving out almost as much free uniform as food.
The Warrington Food Bank is now handing out free second-hand uniforms at a rate of 700 items a week in their Golden Square shop.
Yeah, got some things for you. Thank you so much. No problem at all.
Definitely a massive increase. So, I mean, it was busy last summer, but I mean, yesterday, for example, we gave out nearly 200 items of used school uniform in a 4-hour period. It's clear to me on a ground level that it's affecting everybody, and it's not just those people who might need to use those crisis services like the food bank that we're linked to. This is, you know, it's spreading across all areas of society.
Charlie was the only customer who agreed to us filming her as she looked for school shoes for her daughter. Her husband works, but they have spiralling bills.
With the cost of living increase, with our mortgages gone up, things are just really expensive. We've managed to buy a few bits like shirts, tights, that kind of thing, but actually shoes are so expensive and we were like, we're at our limit for this month, so thought we'd pop in here and see what there was. This is for everyone and people shouldn't feel any shame in coming in because our kids need uniforms, our kids need shoes, and you know, I think everyone's going into credit card debt at the moment just to try and get everything they need, and if you don't have to, then why would you?
A recent poll by the Children's Society of 2,000 parents found the average cost of uniforms up to £400. That's down to the logoed branded items that have to be bought from specialist shops. And it's despite a change in the law to try to make uniforms more affordable. That change came after a campaign and private members' bill brought by the Weaver Vale Labour MP Mike Amesbury, who says the government should now step in.
Lots of schools had single supplier relationships and monopolies there, which drove up the costs. Open up opportunities for local manufacturers and suppliers as well, and drive the costs down.
The law says schools should work to reduce branded items, making more uniform available from the high street and run their own pre-loved uniform schemes. The Children's Society says parents should act if that hasn't happened.
Then we want to encourage them to contact the head teacher, to contact the school's board of governors and ask why, and to ask when will those changes be made so they can have those savings. We absolutely believe in school uniform. It is a social leveller, but it shouldn't break the bank to kick your kid out for school.
At Warrington, they're prepared for another spike in demand as schools return. Hundreds more skirts, shirts, trousers and jumpers going to grateful new homes. Anne O'Connor, ITV News, Warrington.
Well, the Department for Education said the guidance on school uniform came into effect in the last academic year and it expects all schools to be compliant by September. That's tomorrow. Their spokesperson went on to say,
"We'll continue to work with responsible bodies and schools to ensure the guidance is followed and uniform policies are reasonable."
So some troubling health news now and a warning to men about a cancer much more likely to affect them here in the northwest than anywhere else in the country.
Yeah, it's cruel but true. Rates of head and neck cancers are 20% higher in our region, and they're more than twice as likely to affect men as women. Tonight, one of our best-known radio presenters will be telling us about his experience.
He's backing the charity Northwest Cancer Research and its new campaign called Don't Be Silent, Speak Out.
It's calling on men to look out for the telltale signs and pluck up the courage to seek help. Tim Scott reports.
20%. That's how much higher the Northwest's head and neck cancer rates compare to the rest of the UK.
Broadcaster Mark Radcliffe has lent his voice to the Speak Out campaign from Northwest Cancer Research. It highlights the high rates of head and neck cancer in the region, with over twice as many men living with the disease than women.
If you live in the northwest of England, you are 20% more likely than the national average to experience head and neck cancer during your lifetime.
Alistair Richards is from Northwest Cancer Research.
Head and neck cancers quite often associate with areas of poverty and deprivation, and here in the northwest we've got some of the most stark health inequalities of anywhere in the country. So actually, if people live in an area where there are earnings are lower, perhaps there are higher levels of smoking, of alcohol consumption and poorer diets, then all of those things can be linked through to head and neck cancer.
Cancer nurse Shirley Pringle says there are numerous signs of head and neck cancer to look out for.
If we're thinking about oral cancer, any pain in the mouth that doesn't go away, an ulcer that's lasting for more than 3 weeks, or swelling, any swelling in the mouth, throat, nasal cavity, or particularly the neck.
I was just at home, I was just having a shave. And as I was feeling round, on this side, I just felt a lump and it didn't seem right.
Stuart Keane is a neck cancer survivor. These pictures show him ringing the all clear bell after months of chemo and radiotherapy. Stuart wants anyone who may have symptoms to get them checked as soon as possible.
Just go straight to your GP and get it checked. You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain.
You found the lump and then you went to the GP quite quickly. I guess with hindsight, Stuart, that was totally the right thing to do.
Yeah, massive. Because even from seeing them in December, I didn't have the operation till June, and by then it moved from just below my jawbone to near towards my Adam's apple. So, yeah, I don't think I'd be sitting here talking to you if I hadn't gone so quick.
Stuart and others involved in the Speak Out campaign hope that by raising awareness of head and neck cancer, those high rates of the disease across the northwest will start to come down. Tim Scott, ITV News, Liverpool.
Well, earlier we were joined by Mark Radcliffe, the popular broadcaster, born in Bolton, now living in Cheshire. He was diagnosed with head and neck cancer 5 years ago now.
Mark had 2 tumours removed, one from his tongue and another from the lymph nodes in his neck when medics found it had spread.
So when he first heard his diagnosis, how did it affect him?
It's kind of terrifying, but even when they told me, they said, listen, you know, as long as this hasn't spread, we've got a pretty good chance. And so the worrying bit is when you get your body scan and you've got to find out where else it has spread to. So I had that on a Thursday at the Christie and didn't find out till the Tuesday. So that was quite a long weekend. But mercifully for me, it was just in my throat and neck. I say just, it's a big thing, but it meant that the chances of getting rid of it and me still being here were pretty good.
And how worried were you about your lovely voice? Because as a broadcaster, that is such a big part of your life.
Well, I had to sign a waiver in case they destroyed my voice, or I came out with another one. I don't know, really high-pitched, or might have been a better voice, might have been basso profundo. I think the most stressful things in anybody's life are agonising decisions. But that wasn't an agonising decision. They say, listen, you've got to sign this because you might lose your voice when we do the operation in your throat. But the alternative is you might die unless you have the operation. So that's a no-brainer, isn't it?
How arduous was the treatment? Because that's, people panic, don't they? Go, oh my God, I'm going to go through so much here.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's a tough time. For me, the chemo was the worst thing. The operation, a big operation to remove it first, and they took out a big tumour the size of an apple out of my neck, and I had a great scar, like a Frankenstein's monster scar, which you can't notice now. But then you couldn't eat for a long time. And then the chemo really knocked me for 6, but also the radiotherapy as well made you sick. So you couldn't, every time you tried to eat a little bit, you kept being sick. But you just have to focus on, I'm still here and I'm going to get there.
Well, that's it, isn't it? And speaking up is so important. Going to see the GP.
This is the real message that we want to get across. And especially, I mean, we don't even want to delve into the tragedies that happened during the pandemic when people could not get seen and could not get medical advice. Now you can. So, you know, I found a lump in my neck when I was shaving. I went to the GP who said, we're not sure. We think it might be something or nothing. We'll send you for a scan. Scan said, showing up irregularities, next thing biopsy, next thing into this journey. And if I hadn't found it, they said if it had been left unchecked, they said I would have had 6 to 8 months to live. I was 60 at that point, and I've just been signed off 5 years clear, which is great, and felt quite euphoric. It felt really kind of emotional and euphoric, really. I hadn't thought about it before I went for the appointment, but then I thought, and you know, and Dr. Lee, my oncologist, said, well, you know, you've been on quite a journey, and he said, you know, and not everybody makes it, you know, but getting early, and the earlier you find these things, the higher your chances are. Everybody who goes through something like this goes through the same thing, is that, you know, it's raining again. Well, yeah, but I'm still here. You learn to prioritise things. You learn what is important in life.
And your humour as well, because you want to tell us about the bench.
Well, yeah, so there's outside Manchester University where I was a student. There is a bench, and it says broadcaster Mark Radcliffe used to love sitting here, which is a lie because there wasn't a bench there at that point. And actually, there was another building in there. So, but anyway, glossing over that.
Ignore that.
We ignore that. But it said broadcaster Mark Radcliffe used to love sitting here, and then underneath it says, and still does, thanks to cancer treatment in the Northwest. Oh. You know, and so
that's cool.
It's great.
That's a great
so having your own memorial bench, but still being alive to see it, that's good, isn't it?
And thank goodness you are still here and looking so good. Mark, thank you so much.
Getting checked, that message that he's got, so important, and so great to see him looking so well.
What a great guy, and still making us laugh like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And well done to him for speaking out. Not easy, but that bench story is brilliant.
Great.
We all want one.
We all want one, that'd be nice. There's more information about the signs of head and neck cancer, what to look out for, and also more about that Don't Be Silent, Speak Out campaign, all available right now on our website. Just go to the usual address, itv.com/Granada.
Well, let's move on to some more news tonight now. And the head of NHS England's been meeting health leaders to discuss whether or not managers should be regulated in the same way doctors are. It follows the case of serial killer Lucy Letby, where doctors claimed that their concerns about her were ignored by bosses at the Countess of Chester Hospital. The meeting is said to have been informal, with no decisions made. Any changes would have to come from the government.
A teenage boy has been remanded in custody, charged with the murder of a woman in Warrington. Cynthia McIntyre, who was 48, was found with serious injuries outside her home on Tuesday. Police had been called to reports of a domestic incident. She was pronounced dead at the scene. The 17-year-old, who can't be identified because of his age, is due to appear at Liverpool Crown Court tomorrow.
Vulnerable people in the Northwest are being offered their winter jabs early this year, in line with a change in national guidance. The programme's been brought forward by a month because of a new variant of COVID. Those eligible, including carers, will be invited by their GP to get an anti-flu and COVID jab from the 11th of September.
The reason for bringing forward this COVID vaccination programme is to absolutely ensure that we are protecting the most vulnerable, that we are ensuring that people who might have a significant clinical outcome if they did have COVID, that we're protecting them as much as possible.
Royal University Hospitals Trust says it's trying to hold talks with unions to avert a strike by clinical support workers. They walked out this morning at Arrow Park and Clatterbridge hospitals over claims they're carrying out duties above their pay grade. The trust says it's had one offer on backdating pay rejected. The health union Unison say staff are unhappy the offer isn't in line with other trusts.
They know that their colleagues in Greater Manchester, their colleagues in East Cheshire, where we've had the promise of this being resolved and back pay to 2018 being granted, are getting a deal that's been denied to them, and yet the Trust just don't seem to be listening.
Some of them have gone back to 2018, but others have gone back to last year. And it depends on the position of each individual trust. We're open to discussion with the unions, and we've asked to meet with them on a number of occasions to make sure that we can move forward.
Let's move on to sport now. It's that time of year again. It's going to be happening all over again. Manchester City and United now know who they'll be facing in the Champions League. David, will they be happy with the draw?
I think they will. They've both managed to avoid any group of death, and that is all important, especially at this stage. Manchester City, of course, well, they are the reigning champions after lifting the European Cup for the first time in their history last season. Now, they've not played for their clubs this season, but both Harry Maguire and Calvin Phillips have been called up for England. The United defender, along with the City midfielder, have been included in Gareth Southgate's latest 26-player squad for the upcoming Euro qualifiers with Ukraine and Scotland.
Well, with Harry Maguire, we've lost a lot of experienced players in terms of caps at centre-half. So there is a space there, and I think for these two games it's important we have some experience in that area of the pitch. Clearly, with Harry and with Calvin Phillips, it's far from ideal that they're not playing football.
Now, could Everton have found the forward they so desperately need? Their new signing, Beto, made quite the impact to save the Premier League side from an upset against Doncaster in the EFL Cup. Well, the Portuguese striker came on for his debut in the second half, with Everton trailing the League Two club. But his goal, and then an 88th minute winner from Arnaut Danjuma, saw them through to the third round.
I think the biggest thing for me was with a real desire. You know, he can run, we know that, but he can run hard, and he wants to run hard, and he wants to get in the box. Obviously, he's only just got here, but that's certainly, I think, laid down a mark for him to continue building on, and something for us to look at now that we've got him in the building and sort of be pleased with. That's what we thought, what we'd seen, and we saw it last night.
Well, Blackburn are also through to the third round, and they did it in some style with their biggest away win in their 148-year history. They hammered Harrogate 8-0 in their tie. Here are some of the best of those. And the last time the Championship club scored that many goals in a game was at home way back in 1963. Well, there weren't quite as many goals for their East Lancashire neighbours Burnley. They needed just the one to knock out Nottingham Forest and pick up their first win of the season. And their reward for that win is a trip to another of our North West clubs, as they'll face Salford in the third round. Here are all the fixtures involving our clubs, and the standout ties the All-Premier League clash between Manchester City and Newcastle. Now in boxing, Liverpool's Liam Smith has clashed with Chris Eubank Jr. as the pair came face-to-face ahead of their rematch this weekend. Well, the two enjoyed some verbal sparring at their final press conference before the fight at a sellout AO Arena on Saturday. Smith had a fourth-round stoppage win over Eubank back in January, and Eubank has called that a miracle.
What shot was the miracle? The miracle was you walking away with a win over me.
What shot was the miracle? Just answer the question. We're all listening, we're all talking. What shot was the miracle?
I'll answer whatever questions I feel like answering. You shouldn't have won the fight.
You answer whatever questions
and I'm going
suits
to
you.
rectify that in a few days' time.
The miracle was just how easy it was. I said, I touched you, the fight never even got going. And again, the same will happen to him again. If he makes the same mistakes, I'll punish him for them. And he knows that.
Yes, will there be another miracle this weekend? It's revenge or repeat, as they're calling it.
When they're nose to nose like that, I don't know how they don't laugh. I would be terrible at that.
Tickle the opponent or something like that.
Tickling, now there's a thought.
I'd just get the giggles. Anyway, David, thank you very much for that. Now then, I used to love poetry at school until we got to Gerard Manley Hopkins, so I couldn't stand. But if you have ever struggled with poetry, that might be because you didn't have Anthony Schmerick teaching you. He's an English teacher who has a bit of a way with words and is now taking the music world by storm.
It'd be better if I'd had a teacher like that. The 32-year-old from Hyde in Greater Manchester doesn't like being tied to one genre, although poetry is a big part of his music.
He's just launching his new EP called Seasoning, and has written a song he'd love to perform with one of his heroes, Jarvis Cocker.
God, I love a bit of pulp. He's been chatting to our correspondent Elaine Wilcox for our latest Granada Introducing.
I'm the hitchhiker, you're a galaxy. Take me away, I'm the hitchhiker, you're a galaxy.
A lover of poetry and literature, this was the song that got Anthony Schmerich noticed. His music a fusion of spoken word, indie and electro dance.
Someone say it was like John Cooper Clarke in the Hacienda. I don't want to be sort of tied into a genre really. But those, yeah, Mike Skinner, Alex Turner, like they're lyricists, they're wordsmiths, and that's, I guess, what I'm doing. I'm not going to say what I am, not quite there yet, but I'm trying.
Head out the window in a solar eclipse. What's the longest you've ever held a biscuit in a tea without having to make a new one?
And it sounds as though you're still pinching yourself that it's become so big so quickly.
There was someone who come over at Glastonbury and said that they'd met on a dating app because they were talking about one of my tunes, which is a good one.
So just shrug your shoulders, you'll be fine.
Anthony's a wordsmith and performs with his younger brother Martin. He still has a day job as an English teacher, so knows how to captivate an audience.
Teaching Macbeth to like a lot of teenagers who want to be on the phones, and like it's an audience that don't want to be there. Like everyone can forget everything for an hour, you know, and that's I guess what I'm trying to do. Rock and a Calm Place gets played a lot in Sports Direct, according to the DMs that I get sent, which is really weird. I don't even get any money for that.
Is it hard to make money?
Yeah. If it had gone this well in like the 90s, maybe I'd be on a yacht. You just need to be able to sustain yourself, and I've never had any money, and I still don't have any money.
One of your new songs you've written, you'd like to perform that with Jarvis Cocker.
I hope somehow he sees this, because he's a hero of mine, especially like the way he performs live.
You've not reached out to him yourself?
Not yet, but I'm not above it.
That's a big smile for a sad face. You're caught between a rock and a calm place. Yeah, and that's a big smile for a sad face.
Seasoning is his first headline tour of his new music, which he describes as euphoric beats with an undertone of darkness. He never knew his Polish father and has never been there.
I'd love to go over and sort of like see if I felt anything. Maybe just get off the plane and be like, I'm home. And then there'd be a really dark, like Berlin era David Bowie album on the card.
I'm through the door and I'm not even sure where to look. Bunch of people round a table, laminated book, Elvis on the hook, couple people warming up, and I'm sure this used to be a proper pub.
And what do fans get in an Anthony Schmerich gig? He's making poetry cool again.
It should feel like you're at the best house party ever, but someone's reading poems, and it's still fine.
Rise up, get your head out of the sun, and get yourself fired up, you won't ever come down. Cause I know, and I know.
The weather for tonight and tomorrow now. Here's Kerry.
Mom, wet wipes, toilet or bin?
Bin. Why?
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Hello, very good evening to you. A much more unsettled night to come overnight tonight, certainly compared to, of course, last night where it was predominantly dry and clear, a little bit of very thin high cloud and some low-lying mist and fog, but not spoiling the look of that super blue moon across the northwest. A big thank you for all your photos, a big thank you to Andrew for this one, a big thank you to Sonia for this one, and a big thank you to Roy for this one. They just kept coming. Granada.weather@itv.com. We've got low pressure in charge tonight, lingering around as we head through into tomorrow, but after 7 weekends with low pressure in charge, it looks like high pressure's building from Saturday, giving us some settled weather, warming up and settling down. But for tonight, we do have a weather front transferring north and eastwards, generating some showery outbreaks, heavy at times. And then behind that, for much of the night into the early hours, misty, murky, mild with some low cloud. We got well down into single figures last night, most of us staying in double figures overnight tonight. There are sun times as we head into tomorrow, 6:19 and 2 minutes past 8. Bit of a disappointing start tomorrow, cloudy, damp, misty, murky but mild. As the day progresses, that weather front will still linger to the far north, but many of us will see some sunny spells developing. In turn with our sunshine, 1 or 2 showers, and the showers could be heavy. There is an isolated chance of a thunderstorm. Temperatures around average 20, maybe 21 Celsius, and those showers will tend to fade as we head through into tomorrow evening. Then we head into the weekend. High pressure building through Saturday. Saturday afternoon setting the scene for the weekend. Sunny spells and decent temperatures. Take care.
cleaned up well.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Thanks very much for that, Kerry. Well done for always looking on the bright side, whatever the weather's like.
And talking of that, is Blackpool Illumination Switch On tomorrow. We'll be live there with the big name star of the show.
Yeah, always an absolutely wonderful event, but another sign that the nights are starting to draw in. Sorry about that. But that's it from us. Good night.
Have a nice night. Bye-bye. It's going to go dark out.